We are evolving. Evolving isn't staying in perpetual fear, hate and loathing. Our spirit is real. And a lot of people are disconnected to that. I was. And what happens is you get nudged to realise it's a thing. Whether I, being called Chris, thought that Christmas Day was Chris's day. I thought that was my birthday. And that everyone got presents because of me. And of course, everyone was abundant with food and presents and trees because that's how they celebrated my birthday. And, you know, when you're little, you sort of presents aplenty.
You thought Christmas was for you. Everyone was celebrating your birthday in their own homes.
No, I thought that Christmas Day was Christmas. I thought that my birthday, that's what happened on my birthday.
They named it after you.
I just thought that that's what happened on my birthday. The same as that my brother, what happened on his birthday, it was March, he would go to the sports centre and have a Ghostbusters cake and, you know, new BMX for his birthday. For my birthday, it was like, oh, we've got a tree in the room. We've got like loads of like decorations. The whole villagers have put the lights up. And genuinely, like when you're 3 years old, that's your reference.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe birthdays are a point of reference for a growing mind, and B, like it's to help you understand what a year is and time is, because it's oh, now it's my birthday again. But when you're 2, 3, 4 and your spongy mind doesn't realise A to B, of course I thought that's what happens on my birthday. You know, we have all this fabulous and everyone comes around for dinner, the Queen does a speech on telly. But obviously I then found out that it wasn't, which was also part of the issues of like, oh right, you know, and being shamed about my birthday. It was on Christmas Day and I was doing a nativity play and I was a shepherd. I mean, I knew then that was a miscast. I was looking at the angels and the gods going, that is so my role. And but like knowing as a 4-year-old, it was my birthday, it was Christmas Day, doing in the church, doing, you know, the shepherd things you do, walk round. But it was good because I did have the one line that the shepherds had the line, look at that bright star in the sky. And just remember so vividly. And then walking around, sitting down on the cold floor in front of the nativity, giving the baby Jesus a present, give. and then the vicar stood at the front of a packed church in a little village in Derbyshire. And girls and boys, whose birthday is it today? And then I was there with my hand, put my hand in the air. You know, yes, Christopher, it's mine. Because obviously it was. Thinking that you'd get there, the happy birthday cake and the happy birthday song and the whole thing. But the whole village, the whole church roared with laughter. God. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
And as a 4-year-old, to be laughed at about the fact that it's my birthday. And I remember so vividly wanting the ground to literally take... I remember there's like a grate in the ground and I put my finger in it. I just wanted to go down the grate. I was like, this is so embarrassing. Why is everyone laughing? Because it was that kind of like... And it's weird as a child when you're learning what laughter is even. When laughter en masse was something that wasn't meant to be funny, meant to be this. And I know that it's infiltrated what I do now, like this play with laughter and what's titivating and what's titillating and what's tantalising and what's just downright bullying. And there's a child, you know, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I just remember like just not really wanting to have presents anymore because oh God, it's not really my birthday, is it? It's baby Jesus. And this isn't a Christ complex thing or I think I'm Jesus thing or I think it's all about me thing. It's about, I just thought that that's what happened. You know, as a child, when you learn, you have to go back to these moments. And I do, you know, it's probably a massive factor of who I am today, the journey I've gone on and the 27 ayahuasca ceremonies I've had to take to like get over it. Well, not 27, less than that, 6, but the journey I went because it fluxes you. But, you know, I just remember at Christmas when it was like, oh, it's your birthday, it's Christmas, joint presents, like presents you were disappointed. So I just felt I was very difficult to receive. You know, and then I would just always like to just give, make sure everyone's Christmas is fine. And, you know.
As a distraction, do you think?
Well, just as like...
From how you're feeling? Probably,
you know, and just more like, and also, you know, my whole child was a distraction. distraction. You know, it's how, you know, from a really early age, and I mean, like, I remember like being 5, I knew that I was different, and I knew it was to do with gender, girls, boys, and I knew I kind of knew that it was.
You remember having those memories at that age?
I remember being 5, and I remember I was different. I remember I wanted to hang out with girls more than I wanted to hang out with boys, really vividly. Like, boys were just like boring. Like, you know, girls were in the Wendy houses dressing up. Like, they had all the dolls, had Sylvanian families. The boys were like in a sandpit playing cards, and I was just like, but I knew this was like, I remember the age because I was in the second year infant, and I remember just knowing that it was wrong to play with girls because everyone would be like, oh, you're playing with girls, probably saying things like, oh, you're gay, because when you're a child, that's the sort of language, you know, sort of middle class, middle age, middle England, suburban school. Right. And I just remember really vividly going, right, if I go down and play with the boys in the sandpit with the cars for like 10 minutes, just show everyone that I'm like, you know, and a little tiny 5-year-old, 6-year-old head going, if I do all that for a bit, Bambi, everyone sees me there with the lads, and then do that for the PR of it. Obviously didn't know the words PR then, but when I look at it, and then literally as soon as I thought everyone had absorbed the fact that I was playing with boys, I leg it to the Wendy house, open the door, girls, what have I missed? And like proper, like indulging in girls and clothes and tea towels.
So there was this magician energy.
Well, it was
already, because you're aware of your situation.
I was so aware,
and you're almost contriving the outer world, but in a quite a, I guess, a clever way.
And that's it, and it's really interesting because I think one of the greatest gifts of working out that you're gay is having to transmute and really pivot from something that's really terrible and awful into something that's glorious and magical and a superpower. And I think through that transmutation and that transformation that queer people go on, as all other humans go on their own particular transformation. That's the point. I think when you have to transmute, that's the beauty. But when you spend your first 18, 20 years knowing that you cannot, under any circumstance, come out, it would be the worst thing ever, especially my generation. Obviously, it's not as bad now, but it's also, they have that generation of queer people have different problems and difficulties and horrors, to be honest.
Sure.
But in my time, I just knew from a very early age, and then you get to, you know, the age of 7, and I remember very vividly being next door but one to my house was some girls that lived there, and again I'd be round their house, like, because they would have like all the cool like dress up stuff, and one time they had like this beautiful lemon, like stunning bridesmaid's dress hanging on the wall, and I was like, oh, let me wear it, let me have a go. And she was like, you can't wear that, it's for girls, and if my dad caught you, you'll be just no, boys don't wear dresses. I was like, let me have a go, and I convinced her to put this lemon dress on. I remember the satin feeling, I remember everything about this lemon bridesmaid dress that I think my mum had made. Popped it on, got to zip me up. I just spun around, like literally thinking this is the best thing ever. Joy, the essence of joy. And then all of a sudden, thump, 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 up the stairs came her dad. She was like, get quick, hide, my dad's here. And I'm literally 7, panicking, wearing this lemon dress. I mean, we're laughing now, but it's traumatic.
Yeah.
The other like 6 ayahuasca ceremonies to get over this. And I hid under the bed, like, and I remember it. I mean, I don't want to be mean about him because I've done all the work on him. I forgive him. But I remember the sight of his head underneath the bed, his big, large head. He was a policeman. I don't want to say too much, but he knows it. He was a policeman in the village, and he was just like, get out from under that bed, you puffer. Get out. And then saying all the gay expletives, which then a couple of years later you really embeds what those words meant. But as a 6, 7-year-old, you're just like, it's just awful. I'm going to tell your dad. And I can't remember how I got it off. Obviously, you block that out. I think it was like taken off really horrendously. And that sits with you to go from your pure essence and authentic joy to a killjoy of mega proportions, and then to just cast you aside, like you become like half a person. You're like, there's no way I can reveal this side of me, and you just quash, and then you spend the rest of your years deflecting and distracting. And I went to high school and found myself like knowing if I hung around with girls, I'd be called gay, knowing how bad that was at my school.
What sort of things did you do to hide it?
Well, basically, like join the rugby team, which I remember full well.
The opposite.
I completely hated the rugby team. I thought, I can't do football. There's a line. I can't do the football thing. Like, it's just I never got the whole bravado or the actual sport. Rugby, I can do rugby. I can just really, and I generally did get on with lads, but not as much as the girls, and generally didn't, I was just like, but what was great about it made me understand lads and men and masculinity. And, the thing is, I do flip between the two. Again, going back to the magic thing, I am very adept at really honing in on my divine masculine and my divine feminine because of my journey, because I didn't fully block it off, it wasn't like I was lying. It was just that I was doing things that was basically for a society opinion. I mean, obviously I was fullback, which I don't know much, rugby positions, and it was the school was like the best in the county, and the fullback is basically the one, the defender that stands on the line if the ball does ever come. But our school was so good, it just never came near me. So I basically just stood there and watched, but I was still a part of the rugby team. So there's all these weird things that my brain absorbs, and it and then I'd be like the pupil representative, which A, I wanted to anyway, but B, it just meant like, you're friends with everybody, which I was anyway. And then later on in life, I realised actually it wasn't only the sort of the concealing the gay thing, it was actually really honouring what I now know is what everyone else is, the zeitgeist chat of the moment, of ADHD brain, which I just made it work. And my mum used to say, you spread yourself too thin. And I was like learning the organ 1 minute and the violin the next and the piano the next and the double bass the next. I was like doing the plays, doing the, I was acing. I was doing really well at, at my studies as well. And also organising everyone's social life. But actually, it suited the character I was. And so you've got to get to this point where you're like, well, you are also born the way you're born. And we are dealing with that a lot. And it's not just about like the gender thing or the sexuality thing. It's about your mental arrangement, which is obviously to do with who you are, my inner core soul, which I now know it matches it, who you've been, your past lives, which I now, I've done a lot of work on, how your brain works and how you allow it to function in a world where you get by, not only get by, but thrive and survive, which, you sort of start to just try and survive, and then you realise actually it's helping you thrive, this notion. And then you you're just really grateful for all these things, because actually it makes you who you are today. Like there's things
turn into your superpower.
The things that I do today are because of all that. Yeah. Like my passion now for dressing up isn't a sort of, fingers up to him. It's how amazing I can not only express myself, my true authentic self that wants to put on. I mean, I will replicate that yellow lemon bridesmaid dress, but we know I like to wear a nice sequin thing on stage, and it's appropriate for stage, but also to inspire young people. I've had the most moving things said to me, and I've said a lot of things get said to me about my work and what we're doing, but when you get like, parents bring their young kids, and I mean like, there's a beautiful family who are down in Cornwall, and they literally come to see my shows at this small theatre, this small festival called Rock Oyster, and she literally confessed to me, she said, like, what you have done for my son, to see you up there dressed like that, being you, like it's transformed this little child, this like 12-year-old who just didn't have that down there. And actually that's cool. That's because of my journey, because of what happened. And that's what we must be doing. That's the point. To learn, to understand, to appreciate, to get better, and then to be, and then to help others. You know, like, that's how I feel, and I have faith in the fact that there is faith in humanity. Humanity is really growing. And yes, there's awful stuff everywhere, and we all know that, but there's magic everywhere, pure amazingness going on all the time, and I'm witnessing it on the front line, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I think the question is, how much can we open to that? How much we can let down and let go of the barriers we create for ourselves that stop us expressing. And I think you really hold that in value, but you also embody that expression. You paint quite the picture of your journey. I want to ask, when did you first start doing the work on it? Because there's a big piece here around coming out, if that is an appropriate term of how you'd feel about it. Like, at what point did you start to access this kind of denial or this suppression energy?
Do you mean, at what point did I realise that
enough's enough?
Well,
obviously there might not be a specific time.
No, there's definitely a story, but it's it's a decade old, because obviously.
So at what point were you doing the work on it? Like, you just mentioned ayahuasca journeys and like this healing process that you've gone on, which really is potentially why you're in the spaces you are in today, which we'll speak about. So like, at what point, maybe just give us a glimmer of when you started to access this, actually, no, this doesn't feel right, and it's too much, and your window of tolerance was just shattered, and then you started to do this healing work.
I mean, it's so, I've always had a yearning desire for working out what it is, life, us here, my role, the purpose of everything. B, trying to get to a place where, back in the day when when you've been brought up in a school that was really competitive, really academic, your thoughts of life is to be successful, to achieve academia, just to be revered, you'd go to a good university. And then I got to, I again, I'm going to London, I'm going to Goldsmiths University, study languages, because my better academic subject, knowing full well I wanted to go to drama school, but not telling my family or the school, because just was not what you did. Going to London, now it was like my access, secretly studying, applying for drama school, got into drama school, and then my world was in my head was to become a successful, well, first it was an actor, then it was a comedian, and then I just wanted to be a successful, well-known.
Who was inspiring you at that point?
The innate desire to be seen, to be doing great work, the innate desire to prove, I think, to people like, because actually I did come out.
You can be successful in doing something that you won't be looked at the same if it was just, here it is. But if you were successful in it, here it is, then it will give you the best shot.
It was like this. I mean, it's really long-winded thing, but it started, I imagine, like me really wanting, I've always wanted to do something like great. It's just innate. And the greatness changes its parameters, what it looks like, what it feels like. And it's just innate. It's something that, it's the running feeling that I've always had. And I've always wanted to have a purpose and to have some kind of like impact. And when I was younger, I thought the impact was like, rallying the school. Then in my 20s, it's like, the impact is like doing great, amazing things that people can, be doing TV and doing like, great theatre shows and doing great comedy shows and writing. And that's what my circle of interest was. I came out when I was 20, and there's a whole coming out story, but it's not, it was quite sweet. My grandma was the one who outed me. Literally sat around a fireplace like this, and our whole family was there, and she was like, "So then, Chris, what's this rumour about you being gay?" And it was just so out there. I was like, "What?" And it just, again, like anything, I think, we can agree. Like when you speak something comes out and it's literally out and it's no longer a secret, it's not that big a deal. So then I just worked with that, and then just worked with, I got into, being me, which started off living in London, being a gay man, and doing, well, to be honest, when I first started in London, I loved like the straight trance scene and the hard house scene and the clubbing scene, and it was like eyes wide open, and just, meeting all these new interesting people of all different ages and backgrounds that weren't the same as like this small town in Derbyshire, and just expanding my mind in that way. And I remember just like being a sponge and meeting someone that would like enlighten me in some way, and travel, you start going to, I mean, granted a lot of the travel was like Ibiza, but, meeting people around the world in Ibiza, but also Berlin and Amsterdam and, America, and start to, widen what I knew was possible in the world and the universe. And just, I would start to get tidbits of spiritual things that would nudge me on my way. I'd meet great people who would just say something, and I would be deeply like moved by various people. And I've always been really good, even my whole life. I've always been really good at finding great people. It's one of my superpowers, and just discovering greatness in people, and, giving people a space to become, like you say, more themselves, or more into what they're doing. And I've just been very lucky, but lucky in the sense that it's one of my abilities. I suppose even looking back at school, when you have to like navigate a classroom, you can find out who's nice and who's not, who's going to bully you and who's going to like bring you in, who's going to see you and who's going to just be, not so nice. So that journey, took me into sort of pretty much being, in my late 20s. I had my first business at 25. My work story. I mean, do we want to go? It's like,
it's up to you if you want to share.
I mean,
I'm really curious about
it's relevant.
Yeah,
it's relevant because what I'll say is it burgeoned, and then I found myself. I remember I was always doing. I never really liked the show business or acting industry, in the sense that I never felt sort of in charge of my own destiny. I was going to auditions and waiting for a role, or I'd sort of be left hanging. So I was always someone who was very much of a doer, and I would be like, right, I'm going to put on a show and put on a play and go to Edinburgh Festival. And even though I went to Edinburgh Festival every year for 10 years, some of the years mega success, some of the years absolute flops. I mean, I was in Accommoda Duo one year with me and Heather Pilkington, and one year we did amazingly. We were the darlings of Edinburgh, and had the best producers, the best reviews. And then the following year, I remember performing to one person in the audience, and there was more on stage than the audience. I remember getting a review saying utter dog shit, literally those 3 words, with 1 star. I mean, granted, it was from a member of public, but when you start to get that, I once did a one-man show where I was doing stand-up, and these 2 Scottish ladies were just causing a mock on the front row, and they literally were heckling, but that really cheap heckling that doesn't really amount to anything. And I, with my not so professional or experienced stand-up comedy approach, just basically had a hissy fit at them, and then they just stormed out, and then I lost the audience. There was 100 people in the audience. Wow. And they all just literally lost faith in me, and I was just like, tried to laugh it off, and then just didn't laugh at any of my jokes the next 10 minutes. People started to leave, and I was stood there going, this is the worst possible thing that could ever happen.
So how did you meet that? How did you?
Well, I then had to say to them, I said, I think I'm going to call it, guys, and stop here. And they're like, yeah, you should.
How did you let that inform your work going forward? Did you let it phase you?
Well, the thing is, that night I went and had a shisha pipe, which I didn't smoke, and later on realised that it was 60 cigarettes worth of nicotine, a bowl of hummus, and some mint tea. I wasn't drinking at the time, and just was like, I'm done, and I had to pay everybody back. Like, it was ridiculous. And it was just so humiliating. I was like, oh my God, please, God, don't let there be like, any press in there. And then the next day I sort of woke up. I just thought, oh, I'll just give it a whirl. I'll just go back and I'll just do one more.
Mm-hmm.
And I did one more. And I did my material that I'd perfected, that we'd been doing for months and months. And it was the best show I'd ever done. And it just made me realise how fickle, first of all, comedy is, how not real that sort of medium is, how it's all a bit of a laugh. It's not that serious. If you can go through that absolute humiliation on stage, that's why what I do now, I can just bounce around doing my stuff. And what's not serious is you being on stage and then being an audience. What's serious is there's an engagement and there's a contract between you and the audience where you're all present and correct, exchanging something that is, I believe, needs to be a joint thing, an immersive thing. So whether it's laughter and content, or whether it's immersive games, or whether it's play, whether it's something that's in the moment, it's all that.
But you don't personalize it.
I completely personalize it, but it's not for me. It's not for my ego. It's not for anybody or anybody's ego. It's for the experience, for people to log and feel. It's all about feeling, and actually the reason why the people fell out of confidence in me is because I made them feel bad because I was an arsehole on stage. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if I saw that on stage, I'd walk out. It's not up to you on stage to be connecting to your own,
letting your emotions rule.
Well, it's letting your ego and your demons in your ego, and it's like. But just moving on, sorry, I was just sidetracked there. But I then came back from Edinburgh and I walked past what is now called the Box, and back then it was called Soho Review Bar, and it's where Raymond Review Bar used to have his thing, and it was open. The door was open just on like a random Sunday afternoon. There's this guy in there, and I walked past. I was like, "What's this?" He goes, "It's a cabaret bar." And this was 2024, and there was no such thing as cabaret in
2024 last
year.
So
2004, 2004. So it's weird when you do the early 20s to think it's 2004.
Interesting.
And I walked past, and I was like, I'd just in Edinburgh, I've done okay, and I was like, and he goes, "It's a cabaret bar," and I said, "All right, can I come in and look?" And it was Raymond Review Bar. It was an old titty bar. It was like where the girls would do all the shows. There was a beautiful red stage with an amazing curtain, all these little booths. And I was like, can I do a cabaret here? And it was like, well, no, because Wednesday night's drag, Friday night's club, Thursday night, there's no nights available, apart from Sunday nights available, but, no one will come. And I was like, I'll take it. And so I took Sunday night, and we basically turned Sunday night into the thing. Because I had all my friends who were, musical theatre, West End stars who were dark on Sunday. They all performed. I then had, I had all the big comedians, Russell Brand, Simon Ansell, Miranda Hart. And it was basically the thing. And that cabaret...
They all came down to
They came and performed in it. This was before... They were all like... Yeah. I mean, kind of new, like they're just sort of in that kind of starting stage. Everybody performed there. It was the thing. It was, I personally, sometimes, I mean, I want someone to acknowledge that it was one of the first cabarets of this particular era in London.
Do you acknowledge that?
I do, but I don't know, because I know it was, because it wasn't anything else. There was a few other things, and now in London it's everywhere, and I know it inspired.
You started it movement.
I know, I'll claim it, because someone's got to. I started cabaret. I definitely started this particular type of variety cabaret that, draws on being a much more high-end quality of performers. That's not, there's sort of like side saddle, sort of like a bit alternative stuff that you do also find that's also valid, extremely valid. Mm-hmm. And obviously I'm not saying I'm starting cabaret from like the Weimar era or anything like that, but it has relevance to this story. But I was like in London, I was up all night till like Monday morning, crazy lifestyle. You can imagine the lifestyle you have when you've got all these people. Gail Porter asking me to then do her divorce party. Elton John, we did one of their bachelor parties. We did Katie Price basically was there all the time and then got me to organise her second wedding. Then I was on what Katie did next, and then I was doing weddings for all these celebrities. Then I got the wedding shirt, and then before I knew it, I was just on this train, showbiz train, and I was very well known, very sort of, but very well known as the sort of almost the caricature of what I was putting out, which was wedding planner and judge, just party, and organising weddings and, suits and props. And don't get me wrong, I had a ball. There was some real fun and some great times, but it wasn't real. Like, it was all this world. I had a glimpse into the world of celebrity, the world of fame, into the world of TV and the shit show it is. And I saw the weird dynamics at This Morning, which we all now see. I saw the rumour mill around things that are now coming out 20 years ago, literally 20 years ago. And I feel like I had to see it, so I know that it's real, to then move into a place of like, well, it doesn't really fit with the soul I am. And I believe that your higher self has a plan. You're here to do something. I really believe it, more and more and more. And when you're either going off kilter, or it's the end of the road for that lesson, or you've seen enough there, it's time to change, your world collapses. And my world collapsed involving 3 consecutive boyfriends surrounding this world, and each one was more cataclysmic than the next, and each one was more destructive and abusive, and like I was basically dishonouring myself. So I was bringing in these horrendous, mad, crazy boyfriends that were, I mean, it was ironic, because I remember, like, before I'd met the first one, when I was 27, thinking, I don't want a boyfriend. Why should I, I don't really need one. I'm fine, And I really didn't want a boyfriend, but this guy came and, swooped me over the sort of the bamboozling and what I now know, sociopathic waves, to a moth to a.
Did they match your madness though? Because you just described.
So they loved what I was. They loved all the people around me, and and this is the thing. We do bring in something. We match what we match energetically, frequency. The lessons that we need to learn, the mirror we need to see, and I'm always kind of dubious about calling my ex-boyfriend narcissistic sociopath, because was I one? I don't think I was, because I just don't think, I'm too empathetic, I care too much. I've looked into it, I've done the bloody questionnaire. However, I definitely saw an insight to that kind of world, and I had to go through that, and I had to be destroyed, and I was destroyed. Why were you attracted
to that? That's the question.
But this is the thing. It was more. But level. Why was I attracted to the world of fame? Katie Price and plastic surgery and.
Well, but it's shiny, isn't it? It's shiny. It's novel. It was. You feel cutting edge.
But it was, and this is where I go back to what I was saying earlier. We create a world of what we know, and we can only go by our universe and what's in it and what we brought in. And from the age of 18, or let's call 1920 when I moved to London, to 31 when this ended, 32, no, that's a lie, 33. And also you've got to think about planetary, what your planets are doing. I've looked into Saturn return, and when you piece it together retrospectively, it makes quite a lot of sense. But my universe was, I want impact, I want to be seen. My universe was the London party scene, celebrities, and it was accessible, it was easy, and that was my world. And then you sort of destroy it, so you have to step out of it, and then you have to create a new world. And I knew, and I see that that's what's happening for everybody. Everybody I know who I am really connected to now have gone through, almost like a sort of life crisis, or a dark night of the soul, or a cataclysmic end to one life, and a beautiful start to another. And I also see, you know, because I work with a lot of young people, I work with a lot of people, a lot of friends of mine are all different ages. I seem to be really good friends with a lot of 30-year-olds at the moment. I'm doing a lot of 30-year-old parties, and you see them in the middle of their Saturn return, and you want to advise them. You do advise them. You know, you put your arms around them, and you say things like, you know, I was in your place. I did not love me either. I did not love me, and I can say now do, because I had to go through really knowing what it is to not love you, and almost to sabotage you, to hate you, to push you out of this falsity. And I feel the world's going through this. We're pushing ourselves out of the falsity, the veil of celebrity and fame and success and Instagram, you know, and influence, the fakeness of what we think is our universe, what we've been led to believe is our universe, is that you've got to have this, you've got to have that, you've got to be this. And I know that my world was smashed to then now create my new world, which, who knows, this world might crash in another few, not crash, dismantle in a few years' time, because I might be ready for another chapter. You know, we are intrinsically creatures of cycles and chapters, and so at the end of this cataclysmic cycle that basically ended bad, you know, I remember being 33 and going, oh, and, you know, jokes aside, but being born on Christmas Day and not having Christ complex, but being, oh, I'm 33, it's not, I can't see life really being great after this. And, you know, Jesus died at 33 and all this thing, because you start to get esoteric. You start clutching at all the things you can to try and then heal yourself. And then you choose not to go on a weekend bender with the gays at Easter, but you go to this a beautiful, healing, energetic retreat that I was sort of happen chanced on, which I think saved me. And it was on Easter. And look, we can laugh, but ultimately it's...
Are you the new Jesus Christ?
You are? No, I'm not. And you know what? And we can laugh, but you know, we have to again go back to what we know. And actually, when you really, I mean, I was raised religious. I know, and I had to, and I then had to dismantle, because then I didn't believe it, because it was all, you know.
Have you gone back into it in a moment?
I've gone back to a faith that it believes in the universe, God. All the religions are a version of what is the truth, different interpretations, all valid and all not valid.
How do you define God?
I define God as he, she, they. God is something that is everything, it's everyone, it's you and me. It's like when you speak to God, you're speaking to yourself. You're speaking to all your ancestors. You're speaking to everything that is. And I saw God in my ayahuasca. I intrinsically was shown the essence of it, because I had to be, because my essence was skewed because of, like I say, the sort of version of spiritual practice in the eyes of Christianity or Church of England when I was a child, to the sort of doubting because of, you know, what I went through, to then the almost rebuilding, going, actually my version is that I really believe Jesus was here on the planet, but I know he was probably something similar to other avatars that I've met actually in this lifetime, probably similar to other great healers and great you know, prophets and people that are here to pass on a message, and, you know, exceptional people who have worked hard at understanding what it is to be a human on Earth that has the superpowers that everybody has. We all have the ability to heal. We all have the ability to be as gracious and as good as what I believe he was.
Yeah, and to reincarnate, to death, to die, to be reborn.
To keep evolving and learning, and even through the darkness and the shadows, which annoyingly, as we know, they are the biggest teachers, the shadowy dark parts. You know, I am, as you know, a massive advocate of joy and wonder and celebration and play and, you know, art and authenticity.
But to access that in an authentic way, you have had to go there.
And I've really gone there.
You've had to have gone there. And to to fully embody joy, you need to
Yeah.
do the opposite and embody the complete sadness and destruction and just wonderment, which is the contemplative journey that we go on to realize that we're it all and we need to feel it all. And if we're not feeling parts of it, then you can't really embody the laughter and the joy. Otherwise it's kind of a little bit distraction and avoidant. So yeah, joy alchemism.
And I'm very passionate about it, and I see what it is. It's a real authentic thing for me to be able to put my experience and myself and my thoughts and everything that I am and everything that I've been into something that I can share with people in a tangible way, whether it's in a workshop that I do, Joy Alchemy, which is, transformative and beautiful, or infiltrating it into a show that I do, whether it's one of my immersive, interactive cabarets, or, I do these search for the soulmate shows or happenings. And it's all centered around people understanding, how to access joy, be joy, live it. Because people really don't feel that they deserve as much joy as that I know everybody deserves.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's been really used, almost weaponized against us. If you're having fun in the playground, get back in, stop having joy. If you're having a right or laugh with your friends, like me wearing the yellow dress, get that off. And it's like, it's almost used to have something over us, this power. It's almost like, the powers that be, the moves in the TV that's created for joy. You can have it, but only after you've had 10 horror films and films that make you feel absolute fear. There's like one rom-com for every 20 horror films.
I think that's just because we are designed to.
No, we're being shown.
Attention is fear-driven.
Yeah, but no, it's being. We are designed by others to think that that's a thought form, but it's not a thought form.
Do you not think if you looked in terms of our ancestry and our history, we'd have had more attention towards what's going to drive the fear? And
I think that the veil is lifting over the fact that like you say, when you say ancestry, do you mean like what you look when you look in history, or do you mean your genuine ancestors?
Human biology hardwired to seek the risk and to it's just like the news. It's a classic.
Well,
we have a proclivity towards.
But this has been decided by certain people. This hasn't been decided by what's actually real and true, and actually how a human thrives. I get it that if you look in the wild, animals, they need to feel fear, so they know something's like chasing them. But that's basic human. That's basic, animal instinct. That's how animals survive. We're forced fear to keep us in fear.
Sure.
It's got nothing to do with like us trying to eat or not get eaten by someone. But it's to do with keeping us in our small, tiny little streets, not wanting to rise up, but actually to fully flourish and to feel one's joy and to feel highly vibrational and high frequency as much as we can. We don't get sick in that state. We can have an abundant life where we bring things in that state. We have more pleasant relationships with people. We welcome people into houses and have people welcome us. If we're in that state, I'm not saying let's not ever go into the low vibrational states of fear and anger and loathing and self-hatred. It's our life lesson to come out of those states. It's all about the lower part of the bodies. It's the lower frequencies, the root chakra. It's sitting in this kind of carnal, almost, some say like hell frequency.
Yeah, shame, guilt, fear.
Whereas if we're up in the, the love, harmony, joy, and actually added to that, which I'm looking at the moment, is authenticity, true authenticity, realness. Not Mr. Fear over there because he's read the news.
So what happened in COVID days? How were you viewing it all? And that's a real testament to times that we're living and everything you're speaking to around fear and how much we are controlled. Let me finish.
Sorry. I've got so much to say about this. Go on.
Because it's a real, forget all the details and what went on there. But for me, it's like a good window into human behavior and how all of this you're saying, which I agree with, but how sinister it actually is. Or is it just about control and selling products and capitalizing on us as humans to keep us into a state, yes, a lower fear, shame, guilt, sexual energy, deprive that, don't have like conversations around it, or our ability to access it, really keeps us at a certain frequency. But then, why is that? Is it just sinister behavior, or is it just to control and driven by profit?
I mean, it's an old paradigm, you know, and obviously some say, you know, it's more patriarchal paradigm. It's a paradigm that's basically governed the world for probably longer than we think, but certainly 2,000 years.
Because it works.
Well, you say it works. Do you think it works?
For the people that want that control and power. It has done.
Well, it's worked, but to the detriment of, you know, the evolution of not only humans, but souls, not only souls, but intergalactic benevolent beings. And actually, I feel that what we're witnessing right now is the uncovering of it, because it hasn't worked. It's service to self mentality, which is the root of all evil and the root of all problems on
Why
Earth.
does it keep happening? I think things that keep happening do serve some purpose. And I'm not saying I agree with that purpose, but the purpose is to keep people stuck and to keep people in this kind of perpetual state of anxiety and fear.
But it's our role to come out of it and
Sure.
to do the work, to
I agree.
realise, to come out of it, and and the work is thorough and thick. And if, you know, I'm not saying that I've done all the necessary work. I'm constantly doing the work. I'm constantly evolving. I'm not even halfway there. No one is. The more you do, the more you realise you need to do. But certainly when you really go there and face fear, and know that fear can be transmuted with love, joy, peace, harmony, with all of that. Let's take an example, you know, I face fears in the Amazon jungle with a really horrendous experience with a shaman that had really malintent, and I received the wrath of that, the horrors of that, the meddling of that, and something that's probably come from a lineage of paradigm of what's going on in the world, because, you know, and I went through the fear of, like, you've no idea what fear I went through. But ultimately, when I came through that fear, faced it, transmuted it, worked on what it was, almost questioned it, and then worked on how to heal fear, which is, like I say, the opposite. It's pouring love and joy on fear. I've been face to face with a demon, with a pure demon, and I've face to face with a demon here and a demon within somebody, and the way it was transmuted was just pouring love and joy, the energy and frequency of love and joy. We're not taught that. It's a very easy, real thing, and it was real. And to know that actually I've been taught that actually fear is something that can be transmuted by someone that's a person on Earth, it shows me that actually there's no need to be set in perpetual fear, where everybody's like scared about whether they can eat, where these old people are getting stressed that they can't have, like, it's not fair. It's a small minority of people that are misusing the laws of the universe, and it's all coming out, misusing the laws of what's right and wrong, and it's all coming out. And actually it's the shit show is over. It's over, and we're going through the final bottleneck of everybody realizing, and those that aren't wanting to realize and sit in, like you say, perpetual fear because they're not ready, then that is their journey. And I just want to do all I can to do my bit to inspire everybody that actually you are entitled to as much joy as you need to make you feel good. Joy is not a finite, it's abundant, and the more joy you give, the more joy you get back. It's like currency. It's real. And the authentic part of it, when you look at frequency, and it's scientific, when you look at a human that's emitting joy, it's up there. And then when you look at a human being truly authentic, it's up there even more than joy and love, because you can't have joy when you're not authentic. You can't pretend to be joyous. It's real.
Yeah.
And what isn't real is someone else's fear put on you via propaganda and noise that's just quite obviously a charade.
Yeah, I always bring it back to us as children, that we can't survive without love. We can survive without many, many things. We don't need fear. We don't need anger or hate. but we do need love, or we won't survive at that early stage. And I always think that's like the
But
current.
what about all these children that don't receive any love? In fact, they receive the opposite in order to create, again, these sort of...
I disagree that would have happened for them. I think somewhere along the line they'd have experienced connection and care.
Not for many. And that's, again, it's part of the problem that there's been, there's an unveiling of misuse with that very term, to love a child in order to nurture it, in order to nurture a human soul, a human body with a soul, and there's corruption that we have to know about, and we have to talk about and have an open conversation, and because it's out, it's not conspiracy, it's a real thing. And I feel, like I said, in order for us to grow and realize what the human race is doing on this ball of earth that's surrounded by the universe and many other living beings and living souls working in harmony with the story of what is, we are evolving. And evolving isn't staying in perpetual fear, hate and loathing. It's recognizing that is a paradigm that's been forced on us.
Okay, so let's bring us into some tangible things. How does one access and perpetuate the state of love constantly? How do you pour love into your life? Like, what are some things that when you meet fear, you're afraid of that conflict, or you're avoiding in your partnership? Maybe you don't like your work and you actually have started to really despise it and live from that place of just not waking up in the morning and feeling vitality. Like, what are some real tangible things I think you started to do?
Well, the first thing we have to realize is that, what I love so much about Earth, the world, Gaia, is it really genuinely has everything a person needs in order to survive, thrive. From accessible plants and mushrooms and medicines and, homeopathy and naturopathy, to people and wisdom that can guide and help. There really is someone out there for everybody. There is a modality out there for everybody, in order for people to nurture and to heal themselves. Our life is just one big healing. We're born, even with the most perfect conditions, the best parents, the best school, the best upbringing, the best food, there's still going to be things that, to learn through life, we have to almost heal something about ourselves, whether it's a mental health thing because we were loved too much by our parents, whether it's, a psychological thing because of the way our brain is wired in conjunction, or whether it's actually to acknowledge that the soul is a thing, spirit is a thing, our soul, our spirit is real. And a lot of people are disconnected to that. I was. And what happens is you get nudged to realize it's a thing, whether it's a death in a family and you get a connection with a loved one, whether it's, intense, something that happened to you in life where you have to really dig deep and become aware of what the reality of is, mind, body, soul, or whether it is a physical thing that you've had an ailment or something that, you're not taking care of yourself, which I've been there. I've destroyed my body because I've not loved myself and it's let me down, and I've had to then rebuild. And I believe that when you do the rebuilding, whether it takes you to the jungle to do plant medicine, which it did me because I need to do something mega to try and work me out, whether it's something soft like people, so many people taking up breathwork. When I do Wonderman, I find that breathwork's the modality that really helps you access yourself and your open heart, specifically if you, and I might say this, if you are, there's a lot of men I find really identify with breathwork that may not have identified or been inspired or even think meditation works for them, or other modalities like crystal healing or angel healing. breathwork scientific, it's factual, it's like you're guided, and it's an access, and people find their access. What's so remarkable about what I do with Wonderman, I set up Wonderman, actually, I was coming to that earlier. What I went through in the jungle was so bad, I had to heal myself, and I went through the biggest healing. I went to see John of God, which that's a whole other story. And I worked with Amma. I worked with, my own practices. I went through every healer that there ever is. I past life regression, and angel healing, like everything, in order for me to feel A, whole again, and B, love. But like you say, love for myself. And I went through a journey to find true love for myself, and I can honestly say that I absolutely love myself to the core. I love my soul, I love everything about myself, but I didn't at all, and I still, obviously you go through points where you're like, oh, how can I love myself, because I'm being a bit unfair on myself, but you can rein it in because you know how to rein it in. You rein it in because you know how to, because you've learned. We have to learn from inside out. We can't copy. And I see a lot of people just sort of copying what it is to heal, or going through the motions with demonstrating that they've done an ice bath and a breath work, and they want to tell all their Instagram followers. And it's like, to really do the work, to really go there, to really genuinely love yourself, to sit on your own in a room loving yourself, then you feel love, which can transmute over any pain. You can deal with issues more. You can deal with problems. Oh yeah, something really bad happened with work. Well, you can navigate it with a maturity and a self-worth that is real, rather than navigating from a low vibration of panic and disorder and chaos because you've been watching the news all night, scrolling, doom scrolling. People have got to do the work. We've got to do the work. And I'm saying this to myself, I need to do more. It's not a busman's holiday. I feel the urge that I need to go and do some work, and I will.
So what does it really take to heal?
To go within and go deep, and to face everything, and to nurture yourself, and to find out what works and what doesn't. Meditation doesn't work for me. It does a bit, but it doesn't really like it does others. Am I going to bitch about it? No, I'll find my other ways. I have, many other ways, and I found myself going, well, I used to do events. And I found the call to do events in the wellness industry, and this leads to Wonderman, because I was like, I also am aware that the wellness and the healing and the doing the work industry is riddled with charlatans. It's deeply pious and judgmental. It's deeply condescending, because you're not spiritual if you do this, or, God forbid if you eat this or you don't do that. And I was like, and this was 10 years ago, it's softened in recent years. And I was like, and it was also not very friendly to people that were brand new. It was a bit of an echo chamber. It's like, people are already around a fire banging a drum. What about people who are literally needing this nature plug-in or softly approach, or just an access that is their access?
So what are you talking about specifically?
So then that's why I produced Wonderman, and I made an event for people with all the practitioners that I'd met along my healing journey, and all these tried and tested people that were just so lovely, real people. And I put on Wonderman in Wazing Woods, where medicine is. And it was 6 years ago when I first did the first one. We just did the 6th, 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And it was, it was full of people doctors and Botox nurses and club owners. And
how do you access those people? Because I think it's an echo chamber, because it only appeals to certain types of people, and we're all in our own bubbles, and we all exist in these circles and within circles, and it's not the mainstream of things, and it doesn't want to get coverage because a lot of it you can't measure and you can't understand, and there's a lot of stuff that happens in those spaces which does put people off, and it becomes an echo chamber because there's quite extreme stuff happening for people. So yeah, crystals is one thing, sage is another, and it's people just look at that and then they have no time for it.
Well, you say that, but I'll that is of course the truth for certain people. But what's
So how the question then was, how do you bridge
well,
that? How do you market your audience?
Well, mine is mine is marketed. It is a bridging event. You know, it's we add things that make it appealing. So the food is, you know, exquisite, sort of top notch, rather than, you know, what can be at these other festivals. You know, we do evening entertainment. I bring all my cabaret stars in. We have, you know, evening like DJs. So it's a retreat by day, festival night by night. So you're not limiting people to, you know, this sort of, you know, cage, which some of these retreats have been, where you've got to do this now, you've got to do this now. The day program is like a school timetable, where you eat together at 9, breakfast, we all eat together at lunch and evening meal. There's periods in the day, you get a choice of 4. So it will always be something like deeply spiritual, like a sweat lodge, creative, like pottery, mega lols, like mermaid swimming lessons in the lake, and, you know, and dance class with Fallon D, the burlesque star, to find you in a goddess. You make it fun. You still can access, you see women accessing their pure, unadulterated inner love for themselves in a burlesque class. It doesn't have to be, you know, in another way, which I also respect. You know, I want to make it like accessible, and then what you'll find, like I said, people will arrive very tentative, and they'll come because a friend's brought them, because they've heard it's amazing. A lot of people come with resistance. Certainly a lot of women come and they bring their husbands, you know, they're just like, oh, you know, am I going to have a drink? Am I allowed to drink? And I'm like, we don't sell or serve alcohol. It's not an alcohol or drug space. But if you want a glass of wine at night, I'm not going to stop that. You're an adult. I'm not going to put that sanction Sally on you. And it's important for me to go, you know what? People are on their journey. And people don't like these spaces because of the rules and regulations that's put on them by the piousness of some of the people that suggest such. And I feel that actually we let everybody do them, but create backdrops of beautiful scenarios for them to find their own way. Like everyone needs to find their own way.
I like the letting everyone kind of do what their access point is and what's enough for them, without throwing them into the vegan extreme, or
I mean,
the, you know, just completely.
And then when you don't make it like, because what's happened, you had, you know, the hippies of the 50s, everyone's all the hippies of the 50s, well, we all know that opinion in the 70s, sorry, and then there was sort of 80s, 90s, 20s, there's all this new age stuff, and it was like, oh, you know, I'll never forget being 21, and my mum, bless her, I mean, I didn't realise how spiritual and witchy-woo she was, and at 21, I've done me like Reiki level 2, you know, and I was just like, oh, mother, you know, I wasn't ready for it when I was 21. And I wasn't ready for it. She was, oh, I was ill at university. It's all right, I'll send you some Reiki. And like, oh, you know, bless her. And then now energy healing is like so integral to my very being. But I had to work it out, because I had to believe it. And I only believed it because I was shown by this really, really lovely lady who did it in a way that was okay for me. So what I'm saying is, Wonderman has created this tangible event that we also now do them in different places around the world, and the idea is to do them everywhere, to offer this backdrop for people to drop in, to find their way, just as you do all of your work. You've got these great men's circles, you've got these great sort of, you know, things that you're doing that if people see it and they resonate it, I know loads of men I'd love to send to your work, but I just wouldn't, because I know they're probably not ready. But you can show them what it is. You can start them off in a little cute thing like Wonderman, where they're like, actually, this is all right. Oh, actually, I just did a breath work and my mind's blown. And which was a dialogue that happened. And we've got to like softly, and this is what I said earlier, I mean, it was off the mic, but softly, I think, you know, and I'm like a Tigger. I'm like, oh, let's now. It's why I got myself into a mess in, you know, my 20s. Fame, now. And then before I know it, I'm literally Katie Price's best friend. God bless her, sending her love. But ultimately, no, but you know what I mean? Come on, it was like a chapter, and I celebrate it with all my love. But now it's
Still
like...
in touch there, right?
You are?
You're still in touch.
I haven't spoken to her for a while. I did see her a while, but bless her. I mean, you know, she's got her own troubles and traumas she's working through.
Will she have a bit of wonderment? That's what I want to know.
I don't think so, no.
Every year,
I mean, we've had a few
invite.
celebrities come. I don't say
Well,
that.
that's the ultimate bridge, because kids look up to these people. So
well, I get a lot of celebrities come, but I say celebrities. I don't even like that word anymore. People that are in the show business industry, but also very specific
You're a
types.
celebrant.
And like just going back to it, I feel, look at medicine. Now what's so good? We now have our tent, Wonderman at medicine. We do what we do, which is we do the joy medicine, the laughter medicine, the joy frequency, the show, the fun, the dance, the play, the immersion. And it's a part of the tapestry and the weave and the jigsaw, which is medicine, which to show all the different things. They have Ubuntu, which is, beautifully held by Mutti and his gang, which is celebrating everything, multicultural, diverse, and, people of colour and it serves a beautiful demonstration of how wonderful that is for people that resonate with that, but then it resonates out and it starts to mix. And this is the alchemy. You've got our tent that's very queer, it's very diverse in that sense. People come up to our tent like, oh God, thank God for your tent. It was just, a dance, a freeing dance. You enjoyed it. And then you get like Heartwood, which is, the jamming and the musicians and which is integral to certain people's frequency. And then when you look over, you're like, actually, there's something for everyone. And it's about creating something. And over time, those that will be ready will go to what they need in order to evolve. And surely it's better to evolve than not. We can't lead a horse to water, but we can lead a horse to gin and tonic. I don't know. I was trying to say something witty then. No, but you know what I mean. We can create it.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's a reason I wanted to get you on, and the reason I connect with you is because you represent something really significant for everything we've been speaking about, and the conscious wave of like a generation that have been let down by their elders, and that want to bring in and call in something more healthy and connect. And let go of the old paradigms. Like all of your language is welcome. I agree with a lot of it. I have different ways into like terminologies, but I do see it as that. It is that calling forward of a future we want, and we know it's possible. But a lot has to die, and there's gonna be a lot of growing pains. But back to what's saying, you do represent that for me, like someone who's bringing the joy, and at times it can feel heavy and serious, and part of me really loves that, and I really I'm drawn to that because it's helped me so much. Like being really serious in my life has helped me so much. It's helped me. The joy and the laughter was escapism. It was me coming away from my role as a man, my role in society and like responsibility. So it got me into a lot of trouble, making light of everything. And we see it. We drink. We don't take life seriously. And I never did for a long time. So now it's coming back into harmony with that side of myself, which is innately playful and joyful and loves disco and dance and loves dressing up. Like I have always connected to that. It's been a significant part of my journey. But yeah, I'm really like calling that back in to alchemize the two. And I think it's pivotal for everyone who goes on that journey, who stops drinking, who goes into more conscious spaces and sits up straight and has more stance and more of a intention in their life. But it's bridging the joy.
But it's I mean, the great thing is, there's nothing also stopping me from then entering a part of my life where I might, retreat again and go back into more of, like you say, the introverted introspection, yin, melancholic, deep, yearning and learning and wisdom seeking, and I might go into that because I feel the draw. I mean, I'm called to do other plant medicines, for example, and I know that when you do that, it's always brutal, really.
You take the compliment, though, don't you?
I do. Sorry, I do. I do take the compliment. But the reason what I'm saying is so good about that is that I love the thing that stuck out of me on that compliment. The thing that stuck about me on that compliment was the fact that you've done the joy, and then, like you said, you felt that it was, what did you say? You said it was.
It's kind of a detriment to
my
life.
But that's what I think we've been taught. You're in the playground having a ball, and you're told off, and so actually then you're dragged into lessons. So you're almost like confused having a laugh and joy with something that is escaping seriousness and lesson time and wisdom.
Potentially, I think it's the middle path, isn't it? Always, it's when that's too much of that. It's too much laughter.
It's like
too
anything.
much
Well,
joy.
it's like anything, and like I said, I know I've triggered certain people in my stance that is pretty. Now I'm pretty confident that it's my way. I don't think it's a phase. I don't think it's a thing. It's who I am, and I've worked towards becoming who I am, peeling off the layers of hiding that I was gay, peeling off the layers that I thought that I was some kind of C-class celebrity, important thing, and sealing past the thing that I think, peeling past the things that makes me think that I am X or Y. We're all a bit of everything, but the thing what I kind of like is that actually sometimes people that are really serious and let's call it, they've triggered me in a way, in the same way but opposite, because it's like them being like that is making me feel bad about being me. We're all just we shouldn't be making people feel bad, but I know through the alchemy of being around people that are different, i.e. there's a certain person who I've worked with a lot at Wazing, and I don't need to say his name, but he's very stern and stoic and still and introverted and very opposite to me. I mean, I'll be wearing my sequin rainbow, and he'll be wearing his greys and such, and working in his dimension and what his modus operandus is. And when we first met, we were actually vocally rude to each other, if I'm really honest, because we're opposites. And that's what happens in life. There's all these people, when you're opposites, you're sort of like, oh, because it makes you feel not right. And that's what's going on in the world. When you're opposite, that side of the fence and that side of the fence, that side of the political structure and that side, let's not go there, but you're sort of pitted against each other. And then you have to work it out, and you have to find peace with the other person, with yourself, with your opinion of the other person, with the fact that person's even had those things against you, and get to know the person and actually get to know that they're all right. And actually this guy in question, you see him like being more vibey and colourful and, dancing, joyous and open. And, he's seen probably moments of me where he's seen me in deep service to a ceremony, because we're all a bit of everything, and we can be. But it's about being authentic and integral to that moment. The other day someone said, I was at a spiritual festival, and I was just wearing, I think, just a hooded top and a jean and a trainer or a Wellington, and someone was like, where's your sequins? Where's your feathered hat? Where's your, I was like, well, it's not appropriate to wear that now. I mean, I'm not, on a stage or at a festival that feels right. This feels right. If I was to wear that now, I wouldn't feel right. As if I wore this on that stage, I wouldn't feel right. We have to sit with who we are and authentically who's us. And actually, if it's to be extra joyous and exuberant and playful and fabulous, that's it. And if it's in sacred sort of ceremony or, introspected wonder, that's it. And it's all okay.
Do you think they were disappointed?
Sorry?
Well, did you sense a disappointment in them?
The person that didn't see me in the things. Yeah, but I thought, do you know what? I'm not doing it for you or your expectation or your disappointment. I'm doing it for authenticity. And if you can see that actually, see beyond the sequin and see that actually I'm actually still an absolute laugh and joyous and...
Well, that's the representation. It might think, oh...
So I feel like...
It's just like, you're not drinking anymore. What? You're sober?
Oh,
you're not fun anymore. And that's without the sequins.
Yeah,
they then start to judge what is not there.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, it's getting to know people. And it's like, we've had conversations before about like when you have an opinion of what you think someone is because of what the presentation is, and then you fill in the rest of the dots. You then sort of go, actually, maybe I'm being judgy.
And what do you do when you realise that?
Well, just like, check yourself and go, well, what's the purpose of this?
Yeah.
Is it to compare myself so I can work out more about myself in a healthy way?
Generally.
Or
virtue signalling.
Or is it, to try and work out what's the right thing to do generally, and so you've got you've got a boundary, you've got a morality that enables you to also advise people around you because I think we've got to be there for our friends, certainly our inner circle. We have to nudge each other into betterment, because there's also things that you get lost and blind spots. You're like, oh God, is that even right a thing? Because we can get ahead of ourselves, and we just need it's a constant back and forth, isn't it, to sort of remind ourselves to do the right thing for the purpose of service to others, service to the evolution of our soul, evolution of humanity, evolution of everything, and honor thyself, which is honoring God, and honoring God and honoring thyself.
It's good to point out unhealthy behaviour, though, isn't it? Makes you look great.
But also, like healthy behaviour. I mean, God, we can all be naughty squirrels. We can all be, unhealthy.
Just an easy way to like.
But I also think, like, if you're not bothering anybody, it's when you detriment of others, or bothering people, or taking from people. It goes back to what we said at the very beginning about giving and taking, or giving and receiving. Like, if someone wants to sell me something, if I'm receiving this as a great thing to help me, or if they're taking my money in order to make them rich, it's not, the energy's wrong, and it's, I'm just leaping around here now, but, it goes back to what's going to help others. I really that's my driving force. Like I live for making people feel better in an audience. In fact, I remember like about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, because I do a lot of different things. I've got Wonderman, I have an events company, I produce theatre, I've recently, done lots of festival stuff. And I remember a few years ago going, oh my God, what am I doing? What's my path? Is this a career? Am I just grappling around at everything? I mean, granted, it was coming out of lockdown. And in answer to your question earlier, how did I cope with lockdown? By literally spreading joy, doing Zoom cabarets and Zoom lessons, and and just keeping the fire alive, and having a right old laugh. I moved back home with my family and just kept the joy and didn't submit to the fear. And coming out of it, I did end up doing lots of different things, which actually now, where I am now, I know it's all come to more of a focal point. But the common denominator was I love bringing joy to people. I love it. Whether it's stand-up comedy, making everyone laugh, whether it's wowing people with a theatrical spectacle, whether it's healing people and bringing joy at Wonderman, or whether it is, do you know what I mean? Like having a dinner party. I love bringing joy. And I thought, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. And, and that's my current thing.
Yeah, I think contemplation, reflection, and understanding where it's coming from is so pivotal. And I think you do that, and you've done that. So congratulations.
Thank you. You're very
I see that with you. That it's very important to know where all of our actions and our labours coming from. Like, why are we overstretching? Are we trying to just make people happy so the attention's away from us, or get our own covert contracts met by not actually being explicit of why we need people's attention or love? But the contemplation's there, so it's great to have that be spoken to, and just honouring you for that, because then it's pure, right? It's pure,
which I'm really I really strive for that. I mean, I'm not always right, and I mess up a lot, and I this year I've had to really sort of question the way I operate on some things, because when you expand so much, I mean, we did a festival every year this year, and some of them huge, big deals at festival.
every month.
Sorry,
Yeah.
no, so we did a festival every week, every weekend, from May to October. Every weekend was a festival, and some were as big as Medicine, when we had 65 performers. Some we did Glastonbury, we did a 10,000 person stage on the Greenpeace stage, and Scissors venue, the new venue, and Wilderness. We had produced a band, a 45 piece brass band, playing disco house to 5,000 people, and the energy is there, the ideas are there, the contacts are there, the bookings are there, the team is there, but it's like we have to work extra hard. I have to work extra hard on how I am with the managing, with the corralling, and I just feel that, it's because I'm edging so much towards like a pure, beautiful thing that everyone can appreciate and everyone's seen and everyone benefits from, whether it's the people that work for me or the audience. And I'm constantly on that desire, drive to make it real, authentic, pure and brilliant, that sometimes you can't, whether you've not got the finances right on the algorithm or whether you've not managed the looking after people side of things. And I'm just always trying that. And it's I think it's all very well doing all this stuff, but if it's not done perfectly, as perfect as you can, and professionally, and as professional as you can, and it means reevaluating what worked and what didn't, and corralling and getting the right people on board, and readdressing the approach so you're doing things for the right reasons, which is to bring joy. I mean, the joy that was created in Brassique on the atrium stage, the band that we did, with the sun was setting and like the golden hour was real and everyone was wearing gold and there was 5,000 people in the audience just literally feeling the joy. We did a moment where we worked with 432 hertz, the frequency of love and joy, and we made everyone do a group om, and then we added a 45-part harmony.
I saw that online.
And it was the band basically playing with the audience, and then we created this sound, and then we just pierced the ground and healed the earth with it. And what I'm doing is like bringing deep spirituality, deep science, deep, ancient knowing, and wrapping it in a beautiful, wonderful, joyous show where everyone's having a ball, healing and bringing joy. And there's no fear, there's no doubt, there's no scared, no panic, there's no like anger. It's just pure wonder and joy. And that is my mission right now and for the near future.
It's interesting you should say that, because I was going to ask what your mission is. What does scare you?
Not succeeding with my mission.
And can you ever succeed with that mission?
No. Let me rephrase. What scares me? I'm on a real flow, and it's to do with all the people that are around me, who are all those of other people that have been doing the work and gone there, and all these people are very visibly like capable and aware and knowing. And I'm talking from everyone from my performers I use to my team, my production team, to majority the clients that book us and the festivals that book us, give or take a few, some different story, infiltrating the darkness from within in order to heal without them knowing. But that's a whole other thing. My thing that scares me is like, like that. Look, whatever's happening with the world is happening. And so I'm not scared of, a U-turn or, something being sent over there or something we have to navigate here. I'm not, it's going to be what it will be. I've faced the worst things you could possibly imagine. I don't fear. I mean, scared and fear. I don't fear things. What scares me is that, we're just, I don't know, like going to be prohibited against our will with something that's not of godly universal order. And I've seen things, in my ayahuasca and in my visions and in my things that are really not great. And I just really, I'm a bit scared of like the dark. But at the same time, I have so much faith that I'm not scared of it. But it's something that plays on my mind. But I have so much faith that light has not only it's one, and we are in a place now where we're just playing something out, but there's meddling, there's bamboozling that's going on that really is just like, ugh. It's just like, oh, come on. But what we do, we shine our love and our joy, frequency and energy, and it will heal it. It will. And we have to believe it because it's true. It's a real thing. I've seen it.
Thank you for being a beacon.
Shine the light
on me.
You said I wasn't allowed to sing. Can we have a big finish?
We can have whatever you want.
No, I think it's
Is there anything that you want to speak to?
I don't know. I just want to say thank you for having me. I just really appreciate the space to speak about my view, my opinion, my thought, and it comes from my experience. But I feel like a little bit like, Slumdog Millionaire, where he basically, he knows all the questions. I'm not saying that I know all the questions, but he knows where he's at. He knows the questions that were asked because of his experiences. And I'm sat here now in this seat, and I know everything I know. I've got top marks for everything I know because of the things that I've experienced, because I experienced them, they're real. And it's my view of the world. And I hold it so sacred, and I'm so appreciative of my life. I'm so grateful for my life and all the wonder and wonderment that is within it, because of what I've meandered and navigated through. And I also am so proud of everybody else. I see so much wonder in people and so much work. So many people doing great things like what you're doing, and even the podcast and all the men's work and all the groups you do, and even all helping people with little van projects, and the wonder that I see from individuals, it's everywhere. And I think that whenever we're feeling scared or doomed or oh my God, we can so just look over there and we can see like all of our beautiful brothers and sisters doing great things. And it's not just the spiritual conscious community echo chamber. My sister, she's got the most beautiful pub in Wirksworth, in a small town in the Peak District. And anybody going anywhere near must go, because it's like a project. It's like an old Tudor establishment that she's got the pub. She's got a basement games room. She does music nights there. She does community events. The sort of local veg people bring their veg there. She's got an art gallery upstairs. People travel from far and wide. It's a place. She's pours her heart and soul into it. Yeah, she's spiritual. Yeah, she's, she comes to Wonderman. Her husband has his own spirituality, Rob, who's an amazing couple. But the heart and soul that they pour into that pub and the community it's something very new and very brilliant. And that is happening everywhere. This village of Froome where I live, the things that go on, we look after ourselves. There's community outreach. I don't know much about the town council, but I know that it's a model that is basically revered and also reviewed, and it's used as a model for people come and study it because of the way it's ran, which is basically like an autonomous look out for ourselves, try and keep things local. And you can just feel it. And actually there is change, and there is light, and it's shining everywhere. You only have to look at the evolution of these festivals. Medicine 5 years ago was 400 people. It was 10,000 this year. And that's one festival. There are so many, all doing similar things. Green Man, Butterfield, How the Light Gets In. And that's just England. And obviously, and also, I'll say this, mainstream festivals, which I'm also involved in, like Secret Garden Party, that used to be just a trashy garden party where everyone just, they had one mission, which was to get out of their mind, and nothing wrong with that. I had many great years there. But last year I was invited to work on their Saturday night spectacle, which was a drone show, and it was all about basically space, and they allowed the narrative through my coercing inspiration and just knowing and know-how to create a story that was about, actually, space isn't like them and us. It's not a scary alien in the sky. It's an intergalactic hub with lots of different beings, light beings, good and bad, that are working alongside us. So we created a whole very deeply moving spiritual spectacle in the sky with complete with a firework display, and Alan Watts giving his, lowdown on what it is to be a human on Earth. And that's change. That wouldn't have happened 5 years ago, let alone 10. And I'm glad to be privy to the change, witness to the change, and I feel quite on front line of the change, and I'm quite proud of that, and all the people that I see each side of me and around me doing all the different things. Some things I don't resonate with, some things I'm like, oh, but that's not to say I won't in a few years. And same with them, they might not resonate with my stuff, but then they'll realise that the intention's so pure. It's not here to bamboozle, it's not here for service to self, it's service to this change. I think if we're all on that mindset, what can we do for the change? What are we here for? To help this moment in history, in a mega moment in history, then we're all on the right side of history. And we'll look back when we're up there as fabulous angels looking at our work down there, going, our work is complete. We can go to the next cosmos and do more. One show at a time.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
It's been beautiful to have many insights into your journey, what you've traversed, the hardships, and how you've alchemized a lot of it, and continue to stay open-minded and on the path.
Thank you for doing you. Thank you for being so patient with me.
Yeah.
I love your tempo. Like, we literally, the Capricorn and the Cancerian, sort of like, come up the mountain. You're like, in good time. It's very good for me and my system, and hopefully, mine is yours.
Mm-hmm.
We'll meet halfway and just become Virgos.
Is that what it is? Halfway?
No,
is that what halfway looks like?
I'm not tidy enough to be a Virgo. Like, oh, no. Thank you. Love you, brother.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.